Good morning, guys. We're going to do a video today that's a little bit different, change of pace for my YouTube channel. It wasn't too long ago that a lot of us still use the almost now defunct format you're looking at in the video right now. And that is the audio cassette tape. Now, at one time, the audio cassette tape and vinyl LP records was two of the most widely accepted formats we had before the digital era come along. And of course, a lot of people didn't like the compact cassettes because they were basically the death of the reel-to-reel tapes and the now defunct also 8-track cartridge, which, you know, for the 8-track cartridge you needed a unit like that, and for your reel-to-reels you needed a unit like that back there. So for our cassette playback function, we needed a unit just like that JVC tape deck right there. You know, the cassettes made the format a lot more portable. You were able to take it and put it in your vehicle. You were able to take it to a friend's house and play it on theirs. You were able to be portable with it, which, don't get me wrong, they made portable units for the 8-tracks. They made playback units for the 8-tracks for vehicles. My parents had a Ford Fairmont that had a N-8-track player. I remember my mom playing that when I was a kid. They used it quite a bit. The main focus of this video excuse me, is I was having a conversation with a fellow on Facebook the other day about sealed audio cassette tapes that were still in their packaging. And he had a Maxell UR90, which I have a lot of them around here. They look like that. It's a Maxell UR90 from the late 80s, early 90s. And his was still in original packaging from 1989. And I used these cassettes. I liked them. They had great recording capabilities. The playback on them now is still as good as the day that they were recorded. And there was a lot of these cassettes that were available when this one came out. I have a bunch of these too, these Memorex DBX 90s. This one's again still in the original packaging. These weren't quite as good, the Prisms. They're a C30 cassette. There's 15 minutes of tape usage on each side. Here's a Sertron. These weren't real bad, but they weren't very high-end. I got all these at our local Goodwill about 2 years ago for $1 a piece. I didn't think that was too bad. They had never been used. And you know, we had varying lengths of recording time. Like I said, that one's a 15 minutes a side. We have our 60 minutes, which is 30 minutes a side. We have our 90 minutes, which are 45 minutes a side. This one here is even 100 minutes, which is 50 minutes a side. And they even went as high, if I can find it around here somewhere, they even went as high as 120 minutes. I can't find the one I'm looking for, which was an hour recording, 60 minutes a side. Some of these cassettes, even though they're a few years old, the quality of playback on them has faded and diminished. Whereas a few of these, and these were really good tapes. My mom used a bunch of these and recorded a bunch of stuff on them. Was these, I'm sure somebody probably recognizes them. These were a Memorex MRX2 Oxide 90-minute cassette. And these were given to me by my mom a few years ago because she didn't use them no more. And they have a lot of stuff recorded on them from mid to late 70s. And she still recorded something on this one as late as 1987. And they did just fine. The only thing I didn't like about these tapes, just to open up, it's got a cool design here that the case stays right with the tape. The only thing I didn't like about these was that the pad in here did not move. It was stationary. and over time them get kind of mashed down and the fidelity of the tape gets lost. But it's not a major issue on these. They still play good for right now. And when you put it away, you just snap it back in its case. And like I said, she had a whole bunch of these. These are all stuff that was recorded from LP records back in the mid-late 70s. And I'd like to play some of these here at some point on my YouTube channel. We had some, here's one. Here's a Scotch Diner Range. This is a 120-minute cassette. And it still plays just fine. This was music that was recorded from 1992 from one of our local easy listening stations. WVXU, actually it's a classical station. And some of these, like these tapes here, like I said, they're pushing 35, 40 years old, and they still do just fine. The only problem that I have with these is when you replay or playing them back, you'll hear them squeaking as they turn. You know, it's just, they still play fine, but it doesn't seem to hurt them any. And one thing I wanted to say about these 120-minute cassette tapes is that, you know, sometimes the tendency of the thickness of the audio tape inside of them was thinner in mil thickness than what a normal 60 or 45-minute cassette was, or 90-minute cassette was. And they had a bad habit on the 120s of the tape either stretching and it would break. And a lot of times on the 120s, the audio tape inside of them would get so compacted on the tape reel hubs that they do just like what the 8-tracks do, and they'd get tight in there. You'd have to fast forward them or rewind them to get them to play correctly. Other than that, if you used them, you took care of them, they worked just fine. Here's probably one of the oldest cassettes I have in my stash of tapes. This is a 120-minute compact cassette, so this one's fairly old. And the contents that's on this tape was recorded 39 years ago. And this cassette was put out by the Audio Magnetics Corporation. And I plugged them in on the internet, and what comes up is compact cassette. And these were put out early mid-70s. And this is a 120-minute tape. And it still plays. What's on this tape is a Top 100 countdown from 1975 entitled Opus 75. And this was recorded from a then AM station, WMEE 1380 AM, out of Fort Wayne, Indiana, which has now since gone away and been renamed another station. And WMEE broadcasted a top 40 format, and in 1979 WMEE went to the FM side of the dial at 97.3, where they're still currently at today, and they have a R&B pop format. I don't really care for them, and you can get them down here. I'm about 90 miles south of Fort Wayne. You can get them sometimes fairly decent. This 1380 I put on this Top 100 countdown December 31st, 1975. So next year this tape will be, the contents of this tape anyway, will be 40 years old. And this was part of an 8-hour countdown put on, and the DJ that did this was named Larry McKay, I believe his name was. And you can order this whole entire Top 100 countdown, of course again it's called Opus 75, on Old Time Radio Show's website, and it's about $36. Kind of a neat bit of information. You know, there's a lot of neat songs on here, and somewhere around here I have the first part of this from song 100 down to 83 on a 60-minute tape, and then this 120-minute tape picks up at song 82 and goes all the way down to song 51. A lot of neat stuff on there, a lot of good history. I learned a lot about that tape here just in the last week. And here's one I found going through some stuff. This is an old 60-minute Kmart from Kmart. My mom had a bunch of these too. And they give out decent fidelity. This one has Steve Martin's A Wild and Crazy Guy on it, but originally Mom had wrote on here Led Zeppelin, Dire Maker, Houses of the Holy, Aerosmith. Kind of neat stuff. The last few minutes of our video, I'm going to focus on these tapes right here. When I used to travel on the road doing construction, I'd land in various places around the United States, and at the time I listened to a lot of classic rock and stuff like that. And I had that old Sony yellow sports radio I found in a dumpster over in, where was that? That was over around Columbus, I think, or somewhere over in there. And brought it home. It played, it recorded, and it traveled with me on the road for quite a number of years. And the format of most of these cassettes is in mono, but we captured a lot of neat stuff during the time I traveled with it. A lot of these stations are nowhere near where I'm at or even exist anymore. Like that one right there, it says 104 The Bear, Wichita Falls, Texas. That was a pretty cool classic rock station. 96.9 WWUZ, that's out of Fredericksburg, Virginia. That one's still on the air. I heard that one here just about a year and a half ago. This one is no longer with us. This is BD 95.7 WWBD out of Bamberg, South Carolina. And what happened to WWBD was it was bought up by one of the large media groups down in South Carolina, and they wanted to make a bigger station out of this little mom and pop station, and they basically killed it. They moved their offices from Bamberg, South Carolina, where this was transmitting out of at the time in probably 2004, 2003, to Orangeburg, South Carolina. And at one time started to redirect the transmitter, or did move the transmitter, to put this station more in the market for Columbia, South Carolina, and compete with some of the other major stations. And eventually it changed from classic rock over to country. They had a buku amount of country stations down there. It did not fare well, and eventually the station went quiet. The frequency 95.7 is still there as far as I know. They do not broadcast on it, but that's just another one of them things where it was a death of a good station. This one here, 95 Rock, WRKG, this was Cleveland, Mississippi, classic rock. That was a good station. Hard to receive. They were very low powered. Q1077, this is Nacogdoches, Texas. There was another classic rock station. Had mandatory Metallica at 9 p.m. on the weeknights. And this one here is another NTBQ out of Nacogdoches again. And Q1043, WAXQ, New York. Another good classic rock station. This one here was radio station Q102 out of Okoboji, Iowa, WKQQ, Milford, Okoboji, Iowa. And they played a lot of old classic rock and stuff. That was another one of them small-time stations out in the middle of Iowa. This was a good one here, 93.1 The Lake, WHIT, DeForest, Wisconsin. And they played a really mellow classic rock format. And again, that's another one that changed its calls. It added a second station, and I don't think either one of them are around now. There's WWUZ, again out of Fredericksburg, Virginia. I was out there for a long time. I got quite a few tapes from them. Here's another one that got ruined, 94.7 The Arrow out of Bethesda, Washington, D.C., WARW. That was a really good classic rock station. Here's what BD 95.7 turned into, Bad Dog 95.7. I didn't much care for them after they changed. And this also has a oldie station on it, Froggy 105 WGFG out of Augusta, Georgia. And here we have another one that was a decent station. This was WHJY, Providence, Rhode Island at 94.1. I don't know whatever happened to that one. Here's KBUS, 104.5, Corpus Christi, Texas. That was a good one. HJY again out of Providence. Here was a good one I liked. Wind FM. This had 3 different stations that comprised one, and I don't remember all of them, but it basically broadcast. This one was recorded from 92.5 out of Gainesville, Florida, but they also had a station in Chiefland, Florida, and one that was down in Ocala, I believe. And I don't remember all the calls for them, but they broadcast. Wind FM was their broadcasting name. This also contains an 80s station, I should say. It was out of Dayton, Ohio, WDPT, which is no longer around. The Point, 95.7 The Point. WQUT 101.5, Johnson City, Kingport, Tennessee. This is another local one here. It's still around. It's a good classic rock. 106.9 WXXC, which they go by Double XC, Marion and Muncie, Indiana. There's a decent one. Rock 101 WROQ out of Anderson, Greenville, Spartansburg, South Carolina. And on the other side of that's Max 99 WYMX, Greenwood, Mississippi. I like that one. That was a neat one. Here we have 106.9 The Eagle, WWEG, Hagerstown, Maryland. This one was good. I can sometimes get this one, even though it's 4 hours away from me. WYRO out of MacArthur. It broadcasts to MacArthur and Chillicothe, Ohio at FM. It goes by FM 98.7. It's a good station. And the weather's right, I can get that one up here. This one again has changed its frequency. It's a local classic rock. And it used to be 93.5 and 96.7. It went by Max, which is Hartford City and Alexandria, Indiana. I don't remember. I think it's WMQX and WMXQ now. They changed when the ownership changed last year or the year before. And it's kind of a shame on some of these. WARW again out of Washington, D.C. This was a good one. I cannot find any information on anymore. WWZ or WZZT ZZ103 is what they went out of by. It's Sterling Rock Falls, Illinois. They had a good classic rock format. Max 92.5 WXMD, Pocomoke City, Maryland. That was a good one. Mono, poor tape quality. Didn't come out very good. There's 103.5 WIMZ. What was this out of? Knoxville, Tennessee. 93.5 The Beach. That was Georgetown, Delaware. That was a good station. WBZH. I don't know if that one's still around anymore. We had a lot of fun. You know, I recorded a lot of that stuff off of the radio. It's live radio. And I hate to say it, a lot of the stuff has changed around me enough that there aren't any really good classic rock stations around anymore. So occasionally I'll pop one of these in and listen to them, even though they're anywhere between practically 10 and 15 years old, but they're still neat to listen to. To close this video, this was another neat one. It was a green 3M Highlander cassette. This is a 60-minute cassette. And these came with a clear plastic case that you'd slide them down into, and they'd stand up and snap into it. Well guys, I think that pretty much does it for this video. I think I might do some more of these on the cassette tapes and stuff and share them with you. I'd really like to do one for this WMEE Top 100 Opus 75 countdown. I think YouTube would probably have a hissy fit on that. And on these ones Mom recorded off the radio back in the mid-late 70s, there's some neat station calls on some of them I might compile together. And I had a cassette at one time when we moved back in 2007, and I'll be darned if I can find it now, that had about 2 to 3 minutes of different station calls, and I don't know where that ever got to. I haven't found it since we moved. I'm sure it's here somewhere. I'll find it one of these days. So for now guys, thanks for watching. And you never know, you might see some more of these cassette videos pop up one of these days. It's been 6.5 years, but I found it, guys. there will be a video on this cassette. Keep an eye out for it.